Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're laser focused on really turbocharging your English skills through daily practice.
Yeah, making it part of your everyday life.
Exactly. We've got this comprehensive guide as our source material, and our mission basically is to help you create a fun, effective, and totally personalized plan, something that fits right into your life.
Right, so it doesn't feel like a chore.
No more feeling like it's a drag.
And, an interesting point the guide raises right off the bat is this idea of a truly holistic approach.
Holistic. How so?
Well, it's not just about, hammering grammar rules. It's more about naturally integrating English into the everyday rhythm of your life.
Okay, let's unpack this. The guide kicks off with a suggestion that, well, it might seem straightforward, but I think could have a surprisingly powerful effect.
Which is?
Switching your phone and computer settings to English. Have you ever given that a try?
I have, actually, and it's more effective than you might think. Yeah, it taps into something called passive learning. By constantly being surrounded by the language, even when you're not actively studying, your brain starts to absorb patterns and vocabulary, almost, subconsciously.
Ah, okay.
It kind of leverages what's known as the Zeigarnik effect. Those little incomplete interactions with English prompts, they create this sort of cognitive itch that subtly encourages more engagement.
That totally resonates. It's like when you hear a song you like playing in the background, maybe on the radio or something, and all of a sudden you realize you know all the lyrics without ever consciously trying to learn them.
Exactly that. Your brain just starts to recognize those linguistic patterns, those subtle nuances, almost automatically.
Okay. And the guide takes this concept of subtle immersion, a step further.
Right.
It suggests we label everyday objects around our homes with their English names.
Right.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. That sounds a little, elementary, maybe?
It might have seemed that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But those small visual cues can be surprisingly effective for, solidifying vocabulary.
How?
By consistently seeing the English word paired with the object, you're strengthening that connection in your mind, that mental link.
Right. I'm picturing little sticky notes all over my kitchen now. Maybe the fridge could say, warning, may contain midnight snacks. What about you? Any amusing label ideas pop into your head?
Oh, definitely. My coffee maker would absolutely need a label that reads fuel station or maybe lifeblood.
Lifeblood. I like that,
Right.
definitely. But all joking aside, the guide's core message here is really about making the language a tangible part of your immediate environment. It's about establishing those consistent, almost unconscious links between the words and the objects they represent.
Yeah, that lighthearted example really underscores the guide's fundamental point. Making English a constant, almost subconscious presence in our daily routines through these tangible connections.
Right.
And, an interesting point the guide raises is how this simple act of labeling reinforces the connection between a word and its meaning. It can make vocabulary acquisition feel more, intuitive.
Okay, so before we go all out and, plaster our homes with English labels,
Right.
the guide makes it clear we need to pause and establish some solid goals first.
Absolutely. That's crucial. It's like setting out on a road trip without knowing your final destination, isn't it? You need to have a clear idea of where you want to end up to choose the right path.
So it's about asking yourself, what are your specific English language goals? Is it to enhance your communication skills at work? Perhaps for travel?
Or maybe connecting more deeply with English-speaking loved ones? Or just for the personal satisfaction of learning something new?
Exactly. Understanding your why can truly make all the difference in staying motivated.
This raises a crucial question then. What is your personal motivation for learning English? Understanding this why is really fundamental for staying focused and, driven throughout your language learning journey.
Exactly. Now, even with a clear why, figuring out way to begin can feel a bit overwhelming.
Oh, for sure.
That's where the guide's breakdown of different types of practice becomes really useful. It starts by focusing on engaging with English media.
Right. And an interesting point the guide raises here is just the sheer abundance of options we have access to today. Movies, TV series, podcasts, audiobooks, the list just goes on and on.
It's almost too much to choose from, isn't it? Do you have any personal go-to recommendations for engaging English media?
Well, I think it really boils down to your individual interests. Like, if you enjoyed nature documentaries, platforms like Netflix or the BBC offer a wealth of captivating content.
Right.
Or, for those drawn to true crime stories, there are countless compelling podcasts available.
That's a great point. Find what you love. And what about accents? Does it matter if we're listening to, say, British English versus American English? or Australian?
That's a really insightful question. While exposure to various accents is definitely beneficial for training your ear to different sounds and intonations, the most crucial thing is to select content that you genuinely find engaging and enjoyable. Whether it's a British crime drama or an American comedy podcast, your level of engagement is key.
Right, it shouldn't feel like homework. Exactly. Now, speaking of things that might feel a bit daunting, the guide also highlights the importance of speaking practice. And for many learners, this can feel quite intimidating.
It really can. This raises an important question. How can learners overcome that understandable apprehension associated with speaking a new language?
Well, the guide offers several suggestions for finding language partners. It mentions online platforms like conversationexchange.com and apps such as Tandem or HelloTalk. Have you had any experience with these?
I have, yeah. And an interesting point the guide raises is the global reach these platforms provide. You can connect with people from all corners of the world who are also looking to practice different languages.
That's amazing.
And the concept of language exchange, where you help someone with your native language while they assist you with English, is just a fantastic way to gain real-world conversation practice.
It's like a buddy system.
Totally. The idea of language exchange being a buddy system is so appealing because it taps into the social aspect of learning, makes it less isolating.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. It's like having a language learning support system. But what if someone isn't particularly keen on, online interactions? Are there offline avenues for finding language partners?
Absolutely. The guide also suggests exploring local meetups or language exchange events. Websites like meetup.com can be a valuable resource for discovering language cafes, conversation clubs, or even just informal English conversation groups in your local area.
That sounds like a wonderful way to connect with people in person and practice in a more relaxed and informal setting.
Definitely. And an interesting point the guide raises there is the opportunity for face-to-face interaction, which can really build confidence and foster a more supportive learning environment.
Okay. We've covered listening, watching, and even finding people to speak with. Now, I'm really eager to delve into the next section, which focuses on vocabulary building.
Yes.
It feels like that's such a fundamental aspect of gaining confidence in a new language.
Absolutely. Vocabulary is like the essential building blocks of any language, isn't it? The guide really explores this, offering both, well-established approaches and some perhaps less conventional ones.
Right. We're all familiar with flashcards, for example. Do you find those to be a helpful tool?
I've used them, sure. And while they can be useful for initial memorization, I sometimes find them a bit, detached from real language use.
Okay.
True fluency requires understanding how words function within a context.
Right. It's not enough to simply memorize a list of words in isolation. You could know a vast number of individual words, but still struggle to use them effectively in a real conversation.
Exactly. What I find particularly interesting is the guide's emphasis on understanding words within their natural context. It's about observing how words interact with each other, how they're used in different situations, and even how their meanings can subtly shift depending on the surrounding words.
So it's about going beyond the dictionary definition and seeing how words behave in the wild, so to speak.
Precisely. And the guide suggests a couple of key ways to do this. One is to actively construct your own sentences using new words you encounter.
Right.
Another is to pay close attention to how words are used in the books, articles, or podcasts that you already enjoy.
That sounds much more engaging than just endless rote memorization. Now, the guide also mentions something called collocations.
Yes, collocations.
I've come across that term before, but I'm not entirely clear on what they are or why they're so significant. Could you break that down for us?
Of course. Collocations are essentially words that naturally and frequently occur together, like common pairings.
For example,
we say, make a decision, not usually do a decision, right? Or catch a cold, not grab a cold. These are those natural pairings that native speakers just kind of instinctively recognize.
Oh, I see. It's like those unspoken rules of the language that you pick up through exposure and consistent practice.
Exactly. And the guide emphasizes that developing an awareness of collocations can be a real game changer for your vocabulary development.
A game changer? How so?
Well, it's not just about learning individual words. It's about understanding how they connect and interact with each other in authentic language use. Using them makes you sound much more natural.
Okay, so how can we actively train ourselves to notice and use collocations correctly?
It really all comes down to paying close attention as you read and listen to English. Make a conscious effort to notice those common word pairings. you'll start seeing them everywhere.
Okay.
The more you encounter them, the more natural they'll become in your own speaking and writing.
Got it. It's like training your brain to recognize these patterns and then consciously incorporating them into your own language production. This makes me think back to something we discussed earlier, active listening. It seems like that would be a really valuable skill for picking up on collocations as well, right?
You're absolutely right. Active listening goes way beyond simply understanding the individual words being spoken. It involves tuning into those subtle nuances of how words are naturally used together. It's about becoming a keen observer of language in action.
Ooh, I like that analogy. A keen observer. So beyond just paying attention, what are some specific techniques we can use to make our listening more active and effective?
Well, the guide offers some excellent advice here. One key tip is to minimize distractions as much as possible.
Right.
Put away your phone, turn off the television, and really focus your attention on what you're listening to.
Good point. It's like creating a mental space where you can fully immerse yourself in the language.
Exactly. Another helpful tip is to take notes while you listen.
Notes?
Yeah, this doesn't need to be anything formal, just jotting down keywords, phrases, or even any questions that come to mind. This active engagement can significantly help you process the information and improve retention.
It's almost like having a dialogue with the material. You're not just passively receiving information, you're actively engaging with it.
Precisely. And if you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook, don't hesitate to use the pause and rewind features if you need to revisit something.
Oh, yeah.
The great thing about these formats is that you have control over the pace and can go back as many times as you need to fully understand something.
That's such a good point. I used to feel almost hesitant to rewind, like I was somehow, not a good listener if I did that.
Not at all. It's simply about giving yourself the necessary time and space to fully grasp what you're hearing. And remember, active listening isn't solely about comprehension. It also plays a vital role in noticing those subtle aspects of language, like collocations.
Right, connecting back.
Yeah. The more you expose yourself to authentic English, the more you'll naturally internalize those common patterns and nuances.
Okay, so we've got active listening covered. But what about reading? How can we make sure we're getting the most out of our reading practice?
That's another area where the guide provides some really valuable insights. It encourages us to move beyond simply reading for pleasure, although that is certainly important too. It suggests approaching reading as an active way to expand your vocabulary and deepen your understanding of English grammar and sentence structure.
So it's about reading with intention, not just to pass the time or get lost in a story. What specific techniques does the guide recommend for more purposeful reading?
One technique is to preview the text before you even begin reading.
Preview?
Yeah, take a look at the title, headings, subheadings, anything that gives you clues about the topic and the main ideas. It's like creating a mental roadmap of where the text is going to take you.
Okay.
Then as you read, actively ask yourself questions about the text. What is the author's main point? What evidence do they use to support their arguments? How does this information connect to what you already know?
It's like having an internal conversation with the author, questioning their ideas and making connections to your own existing knowledge.
Exactly. And finally, after you finish reading, take a few moments to summarize what you've learned, either mentally or maybe by writing it down. This helps you solidify your understanding and better remember key information.
I really like that idea of summarizing. It forces you to truly process what you've just read. Now, we've talked about understanding words in context and noticing collocations. Are there any other specific vocabulary building techniques that the guide recommends?
Yes, it strongly emphasizes the value of using a dedicated vocabulary notebook.
A notebook, like pen and paper.
Could be, or digital, whatever works. This is a specific place where you can record new words you encounter, along with their definitions, and crucially, example sentences demonstrating their use.
Right.
The act of physically writing them down or typing them out helps to solidify them in your memory.
That makes perfect sense. It's like creating your own personalized dictionary tailored to your learning.
Exactly. And some learners find it helpful to also include the specific context in which they first encountered the word, or even to draw a small picture or create a visual association to help them remember the meaning.
Ah, linking it visually.
Yeah, it's like creating a visual representation of your expanding vocabulary.
But let's be honest, even with the best techniques, building vocabulary takes consistent time and effort. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
What does the guide suggest about staying motivated when those new words just don't seem to be sticking?
The guide offers a few practical strategies for those moments when you feel like, giving up. One is to set realistic and achievable goals.
Okay.
Don't try to learn an overwhelming number of new words each day. Start small, perhaps with 5 or 10 new words, and gradually increase the number as you feel more comfortable and confident.
Baby steps are definitely better than no steps at all, right?
Precisely. Another key strategy is to actively use those new words as soon as possible. Don't just passively memorize their definitions. Make a conscious effort to incorporate them into your own speaking and writing.
Okay.
Even if you only use one new word in a conversation each day, that active recall will significantly improve your long-term retention.
It's like exercising a new muscle. You have to use it regularly to make it stronger.
Exactly. But what if we're not sure which words we should be focusing on? Should we just start at the beginning of the dictionary and work our way through?
Oh, please say no. That sounds awful.
Haha, no. That would likely not be the most efficient approach. The guide encourages us to be strategic about our vocabulary choices.
Strategic.
Yeah, think carefully about your specific language learning goals. What do you want to be able to talk about in English? What topics are you most interested in? Prioritize learning words that are directly relevant to your personal interests and goals.
That makes a lot of sense. So if I'm, say, really passionate about cooking,
Right.
I should focus on learning vocabulary related to food, recipes, ingredients, and different cooking techniques.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to personalize your learning journey. Choose resources that you find genuinely interesting and engaging, whether it's a cookbook written in English, a food blog, or even a YouTube channel dedicated to your favorite type of cuisine.
Make it fun.
It's all about making the learning process enjoyable and directly relevant to your life.
Okay, so we've got some solid strategies for building our vocabulary, but let's be real. Sometimes even the most motivated language learners hit a plateau.
Oh yeah, the plateau is real.
What does the guide say about pushing through those moments of frustration and staying on track?
The guide emphasizes the crucial importance of connecting with your why. Remember that. That deep-seated reason that initially motivated you to learn English.
Ah, back to the why.
Yes. When you actively remember and reconnect with your why, it can reignite your motivation and help you persevere through those challenging times. It's like remembering the bigger picture and why this language learning journey is personally important to you.
Right, tapping into that intrinsic motivation. And also, don't forget to acknowledge and celebrate those milestones you achieve along the way.
Definitely.
Did you finally master a tricky grammar rule? Were you able to have a longer conversation with a native speaker without feeling completely lost? Give yourself credit for those accomplishments.
Exactly. Celebrate those wins, no matter how small they might seem. Those small victories can collectively make a significant difference in keeping you motivated and feeling a sense of progress.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging those achievements and recognizing how far you've already come.
Absolutely. But what if you're not seeing the progress that you are hoping for? How do you maintain a positive attitude when you feel like you're stuck in a rut?
The guide reminds us that language learning is a continuous journey, not a quick race to the finish line.
Good reminder.
There will inevitably be bumps along the road, plateaus where you might feel like you're not moving forward as quickly as you'd like. The key is to be patient and kind to yourself, to embrace those challenges as a natural part of the process, and to keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time.
Right.
It's about cultivating a growth mindset and viewing those setbacks not as failures, but as valuable opportunities to learn and improve.
I love that. Cultivating a growth mindset. And also, remember that you're not alone on this journey.
So true.
There are countless other individuals out there who are also learning English, facing similar challenges and celebrating similar victories. Don't hesitate to connect with other learners, share your experiences, and offer each other support and encouragement along the way.
That's such a valuable point. It's about building a supportive community of language learners who can inspire and motivate each other.
Precisely. And speaking of community, the guide also explores the role that technology can play in supporting our language learning journey.
Ah, technology, yes.
Ready to explore some of the digital tools and resources that are available to us.
Absolutely. I'm always interested in discovering new apps and platforms that can make language learning more engaging and accessible.
Well, you're in luck. The guide highlights a wide array of tech tools, ranging from dedicated language learning apps to online courses and language exchange platforms. So let's dive into the digital side of language learning.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back and ready to explore the world of technology for language learning. It feels like there's a new app or platform emerging almost daily.
It really does. Hard to keep up sometimes.
What are some of the standout options that the guide specifically mentions?
The guide categorizes them into a few main areas, starting with language learning apps. You've likely heard of some of the major players like Duolingo, Babbel, and Rosetta Stone. Have you tried using any of those?
I've experimented with Duolingo. I appreciate the gamified approach, the points and streaks,
Mhm.
but sometimes it feels a little superficial, like it might not be taking me as deep as I'd like to go.
That's a fair assessment. Duolingo is often great for beginners, especially for building foundational vocabulary and grammar concepts. It's engaging and fun,
Right,
but it might not be sufficient for reaching a higher level of fluency.
exactly. So if someone wants to go a bit deeper, what might be a better option?
Well, it really depends on their individual learning style and specific goals. Babbel, for example, is well known for its emphasis on practical conversational skills. It covers a wide range of real-life topics and scenarios, making it particularly useful for learners who want to be able to use English in everyday settings.
So if someone is planning a trip abroad, Babbel could be helpful for learning phrases, for ordering food, or asking for directions.
Exactly. That sounds incredibly practical.
Mm-hmm. Then there's Rosetta Stone, which takes a more immersive approach to language learning.
Immersive? How so?
It teaches English primarily through pictures, audio, and text, minimizing the reliance on direct translations. It's often praised for being effective in developing pronunciation and speaking skills.
Interesting.
It's almost like learning a language in the way young children do, through consistent exposure and immersion, rather than through explicit translation rules.
It's fascinating how these different apps employ such diverse methodologies to achieve similar overall goals.
It truly is, and that's what makes exploring these tools so interesting. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Definitely not.
The guide really underscores the key is to find an app that aligns with your individual learning preferences and the specific language skills you want to develop. It's about choosing the right tool for the particular task at hand.
Okay. But apps are just one component of the tech landscape for language learning, right? What about online courses? Are we talking about those massive open online courses, MOOCs, that you find on platforms like Coursera or Udemy?
Those are definitely part of the picture. The guide highlights platforms like those, which offer just a vast array of courses covering everything from grammar and vocabulary to specialized areas like business English and preparation for English proficiency exams.
Wow, they sound like a fantastic way to deepen your knowledge in a specific area or to work towards a particular certification.
For sure.
So if someone wants to improve their English for a specific professional field like healthcare or technology, they could potentially find a specialized course tailored to their needs.
Exactly. And one of the significant advantages of online courses is their inherent flexibility.
Right, the flexibility.
You can learn at your own pace, according to your own schedule, and from virtually anywhere in the world. It's like having a personalized English tutor available around the clock.
It really is. But even with the most sophisticated apps and comprehensive courses, I believe there's still immense value in the human element of language learning. What does the guide say about that?
You're absolutely right, and it actually dedicates an entire section to the importance of finding your language learning tribe, connecting with other English learners, and fostering a sense of community.
I love that concept, language learning tribe. It's like building a support network where you can share resources, practice together, and celebrate each other's achievements.
Exactly.
Where does the guide suggest people look to find their language learning tribe?
Well, the guide mentions several options, starting with online communities. Reddit, for example, has numerous subreddits dedicated to language learning, such as English learning or language exchange.
Oh yeah, Reddit.
These online forums can be incredibly valuable places to ask questions, get advice from fellow learners, and connect with people from all over the globe.
It's amazing how technology can connect people who share a common passion for language learning, regardless of their physical location.
It truly is. And if someone prefers more direct, face-to-face interaction, are there offline options as well?
Definitely. The guide also recommends exploring those local meetups or language exchange events we discussed earlier.
Right, the meetups.
You could look for language cafes, conversation clubs, or simply search for English conversation groups on platforms like meetup.com.
I can imagine those in-person meetups being a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity to practice your English skills in a relaxed and supportive atmosphere. And you might even make some new friends who share your language learning goals.
Exactly. It's about adding that crucial social dimension to your language learning journey, making it more enjoyable and more engaging.
Well, we've covered a significant amount of ground today. We've explored the fundamental principles of daily English practice, delved into specific techniques for enhancing our skills, and even ventured into the realm of technology and community building.
We really have.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to get your insights on something that I think many learners struggle with, and that's maintaining motivation over the long term.
Yes. The long haul.
How do we keep the momentum going and integrate language learning as a sustainable part of our lives?
That's a really insightful question, and it's something that the guide addresses directly. One of the key takeaways is that consistency is paramount.
Consistency.
It's far more effective to engage in short bursts of practice each day than to try to cram everything into one long study session once a week.
So it's about identifying those small pockets of time in our daily routines where we can weave in some English practice.
Exactly.
Whether it's listening to a podcast during our commute or reading a short article before going to bed.
Precisely. And it's also about setting realistic and achievable goals and celebrating those small victories along the way. Don't get discouraged if you don't see dramatic results overnight.
Right.
Language learning is a gradual journey, and it requires consistent effort, time, and patience. The focus should be on continuous progress, not on achieving immediate perfection.
Precisely. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
So important.
There are countless others out there who are also learning English, encountering similar challenges, and celebrating comparable achievements. Don't hesitate to connect with fellow learners, share your experiences, and offer each other support and encouragement throughout the process.
Absolutely. We're all navigating this together. Find your tribe.
Well, this has been a truly fantastic deep dive. I feel like we've really uncovered some incredibly valuable strategies and insights from this guide that our listeners can start implementing right away.
I agree. I think there's something beneficial in here for every learner, regardless of their current level or, their learning style.
Definitely. And to all our listeners out there, keep practicing, stay curious, and most importantly, have fun on your English language learning adventure.
Yeah, enjoy the journey.
We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.